I think you can say 5th gen.
Okay. So hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is Helen Millar, Head to Heart Living, how to live less from fear and more from love. And I am so excited that this week we are talking to Tim Sanders, entrepreneur and founder of Omnia. And if you've never heard of Omnia, you have a treat in store. And if you have, I'm really excited to get into a deep dive all about how we can protect ourselves from EMF, radiation, and all the things that are going on in the world that are unnecessarily giving us our bodies a battle, and we can make our lives simpler and easier and have more of the juicy good stuff at our fingertips, so we can get on with having more fun and being more creative. I think that sounds great. So Tim and I are going to have a chat. We're going to see what comes up, and stick around so that you can find out how to get your own Omnia at the end. And if you're too impatient and you want to come back and listen, the link is below, as is the link to all my free stuff and newsletters and events I have coming up, etc., etc. Right, Tim, hello, welcome.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Pleasure. So we actually crossed paths years ago at a festival, and I don't know how we ended up talking. I think I'd just had a really weird, or was just about to have a really weird experience when somebody started talking to me telepathically for the first time.
Okay. Yeah.
Which freaked me out a bit afterwards, not at the time. Anyway, that's how we met. And then
it was outside the tarot card bus or something, you know, they had a trailer or something. There was
that's right.
Women reading tarot in there.
Yeah, friends of mine were reading tarot inside, and I was on the door welcoming people. So right, first of all, could you tell me and my viewers what Omnia is and how you ended up coming to being the founder of this company?
Sure. Well, Omnia is basically, it's the Omnia radiation balancer. Balance is the key word in everything that we represent, including our science and so on, because the radiation field has to be balanced in order for it to resonate with our bodies. And at the moment, all of the wireless radiation that we touch and use and put next to our heads and so on is what we call imbalanced. So we'll come back to what that really means later on, because it's all about the 0 point and consciousness and all sorts of other things, which is, for me, quite interesting. And I hope for your audience too. But yeah, it's a sticker. It looks like this. You just put it onto any radiating device and it harmonizes the radiation. And like I said, it makes a match between that energy field and your body's energy field, because your body does have an energy field around it. Everything in the body is electric. Your heart is a big electrical pump. Your brain waves are electrical wave fields that are invisible, just like the invisible wireless radiation that we have. So we're making a match between those two energy fields, so you can get along with your life and not have to worry about the stress from electromagnetic frequencies. The reason I set up Omnia is because I went to a festival run by Michael Tellinger in South Africa, maybe 2.5 years ago, something like that. And I went to it was full of amazing speakers, and one speaker was talking about free energy. And halfway through his talk, he said, "Oh, I've also got the solution to all the radiation problems in the world." And I was like, well, wait a minute, that's quite a big call. And his talk was so kind of crazy. I mean, he was talking about getting into cars and telling the cars to drive, and the car would just drive. And I'm not talking about voice recognition. I'm saying your consciousness actually moves the car forward, that kind of thing. So it was so crazy that I just went up to him and I said, what about radiation? And he said, oh yeah, I've got these stickers. And he showed me these stickers, and I already knew how to muscle test with stickers, right? Because I'd found out while I was living in Singapore that effectively your body goes weak every time you hold a mobile phone. And that to me was quite big news. It was like, well, this is important, you know. And then I tried to tell everyone else, and they just, you know, a lot of people just went, can't be true, denial. Yeah. But I took these stickers, put one on my phone, muscle tested people, and it worked super well. The body went super strong. So I then said to him, how are you marketing it? and he said, well, I'm a scientist. I don't like the marketing side. I just want to do my science. And I went, well, can I build a brand around your stickers? And so I took it home, did some more tests to prove that it worked in other ways, founded Omnia Radiation Balancer, the ORB, and then just set about selling it and trying to promote its value, its benefits. And in doing so, I got to understand all of the true concepts in science from the atom upwards, which actually allows us to understand an awful lot about our bodies, about toxins, about why wireless radiation fields are not the same as the radiation fields that we get from the sun, and so on. So I went on a ride to discover all these new concepts in physics, and that gives you actually quite a spiritual aha moment, because it's all about divine intelligence that spins within the atom and how that happens. So I got more than I bargained for, and that's what I do. I just promote that product. We've got some more products coming out. That's me.
That is so many things to pick up on there. Also, I mean, I've been using Omnia for years, and I have it on all my devices, on my router, on my laptop, on my phone, on my induction cooker, because I want everything to be in harmony. And what I found is my spiritual path or energetic path, or like my understanding of how the world works beyond just like the 3D of like opening the door handle, and like really understanding how telepathy works, how I'm able to channel, how, like the power of crystals. I think once you get into like what I would say is like the real world, but some people might say is spiritual whatnot, hippie new whatever, but it actually, like when you takes you into quantum physics, because how can it not? And really looking at how like just mind-boggling incredible the universe is, and the intelligence that is out there that is far greater than what our minds can fathom. And I mean, my sort of massive wake up into that was plant medicine, but it's all there. We don't have to work with plant medicines if you don't want to, but it's what I think is incredible with Omnia is like, or with anything like that, is like, as you said, this massive journey you go on, because you can't, it's like there's this huge ball of strings, and as soon as you start to pull on one, it opens up all this other information. And so when you start to realize that there's a way of having free energy, or cars that move with your consciousness, or literally just putting a sticker on your phone that stops it from being damaging, then you start to realize that music is actually designed to damage, and you can tune your pianos differently, and suddenly it's sort of endless. I think it was Deepak Chopra, who I don't particularly resonate with, but he spoke about the learning curve of awakening being like that, pretty much.
Yeah, well, especially now. Absolutely. And you look at the thing I like most, because I'm not a scientist, the thing I like most about the inventor of my product, science, is it's really simple. It's complicated to get through it, but then when you put it all in place, you go, aha, there's just recurring themes, and there's something that then explains things that I didn't understand before, like Reiki, for example. It's like, how can I send Reiki to someone halfway around the world? Well, when you get into his physics, you'll realize that at the center of every atom is a 0 point, a magnetic still point of no electrical potential. And that 0 point is connected in all the atoms all around us, whether it's in my body or in this water bottle here. They're all spinning with electrical current. The electrical current is effectively a donut, a field of light or electrical current. So if you imagine a donut, then on the inside of the donut,
the toroidal field, is that right?
Torus field or toroidal field, either of those. So yeah, it's a torus field of light. And interestingly, if you put a camera inside your body, magnified many times, and went down the blood veins, you'd find these little torus fields of light, which we call blood cells. So our blood cells are shaped like toruses, right? And this is big news. This is like, it's important, because the design of it is actually replicating on harmonic scales throughout all existence. So there is a torus field of energy that beats. This was discovered on the HeartMath by the HeartMath Institute in Stanford. There's one that beats very strongly, is created very strongly around the heart, about 3 feet outwards, and then there's a weaker one to about 12 feet. And they've measured this, and then they measure what changes it. Whether it's thinking or sleeping or meditating or eating good diet and good food and so on. But at the center of that torus field, so that basically every atom is made up of this torus field of light, and at the center of it is the 0 point, right? And that 0 point is conscious. It's effectively the field of all electrical potential, therefore the field of all life. Therefore, it's the creator field. It's the God field, if you want to go that far. And I do, because I'm now heavily into this, right? I really enjoy the fact that, there's this point at which we can interact with, and we can consciously dive into, So if I wanted to give you Reiki and we're miles apart, then I could intentionally pass that energy through that 0 point field, which is connected amongst all atoms everywhere that are spinning rings of light, manifesting as life, whether that be in a tree or a bedroom or a computer or my body, right? And the difference between all of those static, kind of immobile, supposedly dead objects and my body is that I have a mind to move all of my atoms around. And how do I do that? Because my mind goes into the 0 point of each atom in my body to wave my hands around, for example, if I want to do that. And the same thing is happening with energy that I can send through that 0 point field if I learn how to program it, right? And so that really opens up this whole kind of new understanding of our bodies, of our existence, the fact that everything is a spinning ring of light that is always spinning. So it's never static, it's always moving. So that's kind of the explanation of the holographic electrical universe.
Which has so many offshoots to it, and is the same, in my understanding, as how Joe Dispenza was able to walk when he was told he'd never be able to walk again. It's, from my understanding, how I've able to sit with people with stage 4 cancer who've been able to clear it essentially through the power of their mind. Yeah. It's my understanding about that, how telepathy works, how healing frequencies work, how mass meditation works, how the 100 monkey effect works, how birds, that they put milk, they were drinking all the milk off the doorstop, so then they put foil over the caps and the birds didn't know what to do. And then as soon as one bird realized that you could peck it through with your beak and still get the milk, suddenly birds in Germany started doing the same thing. And how did they know that? Yeah. And I'm running a workshop on Sunday, although when you're catching this, you might have just missed it, about how to talk to trees. And it's like, because this is the consciousness, or the God field is everywhere. And it's only our mind that prevents us. And it's our limitation. And this is, you can sort of take it into why people who were taking LSD in the 60s suddenly thought they could fly. It's because they're tapping into that energy, but then they're falling short because they haven't mastered the act of it being possible. But I do believe it's possible. I believe levitation is possible. Yeah. And I think within, now some people may roll their eyes at this bit, but isn't it exciting to hold it as a potential that within our lifetime, we will not be using aeroplanes, not because of any bits of paper we may or may not need to get on them, but because it won't be necessary, because we'll be able to understand, expand our consciousness enough to understand this, and then think about being on Bondi Beach and we're there. Like, how exciting is that?
Absolutely, yeah. Our own little TARDIS or something. Yeah, no, it's fascinating. And, I often just, people think that's a bit too far-fetched, that, there is divine intelligence in an atom or whatever, and that could be passed from animals. But let's just think about ourselves, right? It's happening in our bodies all the time, right? So I often say to people, just to try and illustrate this fact, do you know how your stomach digests its food? Do you know how your fingernails are growing? Do you know how the air comes into your lungs and goes into your bloodstream? No, these are not conscious brain-led things that happen in your body, right? Your brain has a certain function, right? It decides what to have for lunch, for example, or who to hang out with or what it's interested in, right? But your body is running on divine intelligence, right? So you have this trade-off between your mental side of you and the conscious side of you, and then the operating system of the body, which is always looking to be in balanced, centered, toroidal fields of spinning light. As Tesla said, everything is the light. What he meant by that is that all atoms or cells are compressing themselves into matter. And the science of my inventor friend who invented our product shows us that it compresses itself into light to form matter that we can see, and then it discharges itself to the ether, right? So the atom brings out the energy from the 0 point, the magnetic 0 point, to spin itself with all the divine instructions to do what it needs to do in the liver versus the spleen versus the gut versus the brain versus the everything, right? It brings out that information according to the divine blueprint, and then it discharges itself and then spins itself back or comes back via the 0 point to spin itself again. So that's happening in all your cells. They're literally living and dying, living and dying, living and dying, flicking on and off rapidly. And the speed at which they do that is frequency, right? Frequency is just a number. It's just how fast is that field moving? How fast is that field interchanging between the compression and the expansion? And that is really interesting for me, as, like I said, a non-scientist, because it fills in lots of blanks for me on my spiritual journey. So yeah, there's a world of physics out there that kind of fills in all those blanks of our day-to-day esoteric experiences.
So if I was to play devil's advocate and maybe voice some of the things that people may be thinking, hearing you say these things, who haven't come across this before, they would say, so why doesn't everybody know this? Why isn't it taught in schools? Why do we have phones that damage us? Why don't we have phones that work with this technology naturally?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a few questions there. First of all, the science textbooks. I mean, like, I've queried Lackey, who's the inventor, Professor Ilya Lakisevich. He was the professor of research in physics at the Max Planck Institute of Physics, which is one of the highest research professor positions you can have. And then he sort of had this awakening, this spiritual awakening, where he started to go out of his body and talk to the 0 point field and ask questions that he couldn't get the answer to from his physics books and so on. And then when he sort of put everything together, and he's written many papers rewriting Einstein's E equals mc squared, and the true concept of the atom, the true structure of water, all sorts of the real meaning of gravity, or the real rules of gravity, and so on, right? So when he had that kind of experience and came back and put it all out, he went back to the physics community and said, listen, I've not only got all of the answers, I've tested it and proven it too. And the door got shut on him, and he basically had to leave pretty soon after that. The reason is because, like everywhere in the world at the moment, there is a filter on the truth. And a lot of education is an inversion of the truth.
Yeah.
And that is only going to benefit the organizations that are largely service to self, right? So if everything was service to others, and everyone was just connected and tuned into the truth, we'd all know it. But ultimately, the service to self, misleading information helps certain industries, big pharma, to perpetuate the idea that only chemicals can heal the human body, right? Because if we all knew that that wasn't true, they wouldn't make any money. Yeah. So, of course, not everyone's just going to flip into the mastery of self and heal themselves instantly. It takes quite a long time, and there are many challenges along the way. And I wouldn't profess to be an expert in that, but I've certainly had an interesting journey of understanding and unveiling because of what I've done for the last 2.5 years working with this science and this technology. But ultimately, that is our potential to be able to heal ourselves, like we talked about earlier on, because every atom is a spinning ring of electrical current with a 0 point sitting in the middle of it. If that 0 point moves around and never sits in the center, you have an imbalanced, uncentered wave field, electrical wave field, and that's what's happening in wireless radiation from phones, right? Compared to the wireless radiation from the sun, which is perfectly centered with the 0 point right in the middle. It's made by the creator. It's the giver of all life. We wouldn't be alive without the sun. We wouldn't have anything to eat without the sun. But it's hotter than a field of energy coming from my phone. So it's not the heat that causes the damage, right? It is the imbalanced vibration. Why is the electrical grid imbalanced? Well, because it's built on principles that are not in service to others. It's in service to self, right? So we have that dissonance, that vibrational dissonance. And what we stand for at Omnia is the fact that everything is electrical first and chemical second. So if the electricity is out of balance, the chemicals are secreted or excreted or whatever that cause the harm in the body, right? That cause the cancers, that cause the whatever else, right? So what we're all about is trying to get that electrical balance in your body so that you can go about using your mobile phones and your Wi-Fi routers and your whatever else without worrying too much about it. And you've already mentioned that your testimonial where you said that, you know, you felt a lot of benefit, and we get an awful lot of testimonials like that, which is fantastic because that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to, you know, bring that resonance to the body so you can get on with things, you know?
Yeah. And it's, you know, I remember when I went through my awakening sort of spiritual side, which is very difficult for some people who had known me for the rest of my life, where it was completely different. And I just wanted to be getting drunk in pubs and not, you know, running around in fields with trees.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember my mum saying something offhand, like, I think I bought a tablet, and she said, why do you do that? You don't think there should be any technology on the planet. And it's like, whoa, hang on. I've never said that. I don't want to not be able to email my friends or text people or stream films. Like, what are you on? But it's a, you know, I think we can think as technology and sort of demonize it. And we just all want to go back to living in mud huts. And okay, that might be great for some people, but technology brings us so many benefits. And like you and I would not be talking now if we didn't have, you know, these devices. So it just doesn't have to be harmful. And as we're in the age of Aquarius now, we're just at the very beginning of it, that so much of this time is balancing the feminine and the masculine and divine feminine energies within all of us, which is also, you know, unpacking and dismantling the energy of war and competition over and bringing into balance. You talk so much about balance and harmony within ourselves and within society. But it is also about we're now in 200 years of air, about this, everything speeding up, time itself is speeding up.
Yep.
And I have made another video about why that is. But it's with this increase is the increase of technology, but it's about how we use it and the level of consciousness about how we approach technology and how we use it, and making sure that our consciousness is broader than the technology so that we don't start dropping bombs and using it for service to self. And I think that is the key. And so I think often people talk to me about maybe events that have been going on for the last 18 months and say, well, why would people do that? And it's all down to the level of consciousness that a individual scientist or doctor holds. And interesting about you talking about this inventor who was then conversing with 0 point field. I had an experience at my first dieta in Peru with working with ayahuasca, and I was there with an eminent scientist. I didn't know many scientists, but I found this all out later about really like quite how prestigious her career was. And it was her first time ever working with that plant medicine. And after the first ceremony, I remember seeing her the next day and saying, how was your experience? And she was like, she spent the ceremony essentially in her lab, being guided and told why her experiments weren't working and what she needed to be doing, and was given all of these downloads about. She then ended up moving out of the realm of the science and stepping away from all the platforms and the finances she had, because of the limitations of being shut down, of basically the control structures not wanting that information to be out there.
There's a truth filter, and it's all run by money. It's like if physics doesn't make money, right? It's all funded. Who's funding it? Well, a lot of big pharma, for example. Not to point too many fingers, but and get into too much trouble. But that's why certain truths are perpetuated and other things are closed down. But there's also an awful lot of work that goes into them trying to ridicule the people that come forward with new truths. So I'll just give you an example of how ridiculous this situation is, right? If you knew how the safety testing happened on your mobile phone, you would be completely flabbergasted. And I'm going to tell you what they do right now. This is based on old physics, or traditional physics, which says that only heat can cause, in a radiation field, only heat, ionizing radiation, can cause an atom to break up and be destroyed and harm the human body, right? Only heat. And we're challenging that and saying, no, it's nothing to do with heat. It's about the quality of spin in the torus field and the position of the magnetic 0 point in the middle. But they say it's only heat. So what do they do to guarantee our safety? They get a plastic model of a human being with plastic skin. They fill it with fake blood, which is a combination of salt, sugars, and something else, water, right? And they basically put a phone next to the fake plastic skin, and see if any heat transfers through the fake plastic skin into the fake blood, right? So that's the test that they do, to just see if there's any heat that gets transferred, right? There is one big thing missing there, which is a body, right? A human body with electrical current flowing through it all day long, right? My heart pumping, my brainwaves, whatever. Because all of the tests that they've done on animals, rats mainly, have shown that all sorts of things develop in the human body, cancers, diabetes, infertility, and you can look these things up if you know where to go. But please don't rely on your media to tell you this, because who are the big sponsors of media right now? The phone industry, telcos, Google, Apple, you name it. They're not going to start talking about fears over health concerns of using mobile phones. Of course they're not. So it's up to us to try and spread the word, but we don't want to make enemies of the telco industry. We just want to tell them the right science, which enables us all to get to a point which we want to get to, which is providing energy or wave fields carrying data that are already balanced, right? We were talking just off air about this, and the fact that is underway behind the scenes. There are plans to make this energy balanced so that we receive data safely and in harmony with the Earth. Because the other thing that's coming along with the 5th generation of things is that they're trying to put a whole load of satellites up into the sky, right? And just block out the skyline and, all of this electrical interference all around us. And our bodies, like I said, are big electrical antennas. We are walking around responding to everything that we encounter. We respond to the sunlight, we respond to me and you chatting, we respond to our computers as well, because they're sending another type of energy our way. And the easiest way to explain this is if you get two guitars, right? And you put them next to each other, and you click one of the strings on one of the guitars, but leave the other one completely, untouched. What happens with the other guitar is that the string that is the same on each guitar starts to vibrate in sympathetic resonance, right? None of the other strings. Let's say you pluck the A string on the guitar, only the A string will start to resonate in sympathy. And that's the same with our bodies as we walk into radiation fields, because they're in pretty much the same range that our bodies are radiating at, because our bodies as electrical, antennae are radiating as well. All of the cells in our body are going through an electrical spinning experience. And part of that natural spin is a radiation output. So when we walk into these wireless radiation fields, we start to resonate in sympathy with them. And then if that field is imbalanced, our fields become imbalanced as well. And very simple test for doing that is a muscle test, which you may or may not have heard of, but just to explain, kinesiology or applied kinesiology is where you interrogate the strength of the body to see whether it's strong. So normally you hold your arm out like that, someone pulls down, you're super strong, then put a phone in your hand, and most people, their arm will just dip because they don't have that natural strength, because all of the spinning electrical currents in their body are being compromised by these incredibly powerful things. These phones are carrying massive amounts of imbalanced electrical energy or radiation. So what we want to do is try and make them safe, try and harmonize and bring the spin of electrical current into the same pattern and vibration as all of the spinning current in our bodies. And when we've done that, we do all these tests on the human body. We do live blood analysis. We do, like I've said before, applied kinesiology. We've done autonomic response testing, which actually shows that the body goes into a healing mode when you're touching your phone, which is, I didn't even know that before. So we're actually turning it into a really nice, positive energy field, because, and this is going to sound like, your woo-woo-ometer is going to go off the charts here, but
I threw my woo-woo-ometer away a long time ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But some people probably still have one.
Yeah, woo-woo-ometer for sale if anyone wants it. So basically we're turning that energy field into the vibrational pattern of love, and everybody likes love. When you get that presence of that energy field, your body resonates with it and sighs a big sigh of relief. So that's what we're doing in theory, and in practice the body always says when we do the tests, and so does water. Water starts developing these beautiful crystals. When you hold our phone with the patch on top of water, then you freeze it and take photos, just like Dr. Emoto. From his lab, we sent up our and incidentally, when you're talking about the new generation of phones, which might have something to do with 5, when you put your phone without any protection on, and you irradiate your water for 8 minutes, and then you send that sample off to the lab, the water molecule is completely destroyed. There's no structure to it. There's no crystals forming. There's nothing. So that again is the water molecules, the conscious water molecules reacting to an energetic presence.
Yeah.
It's not just us as electrical antenna that reacts to other environments, it's water too. And
thank you for mentioning water, because my last week's video, for those of you who didn't catch it, was all about the power of water and water distilling and how to charge up your water, and from no budget free and to getting devices to help you do that as well. So yeah, fascinating. And can I just say thank you for bringing Omnia out into the world, because I know that it's been hugely popular and is affordable, and it's just so helpful that this technology is being widely available for people.
And it lasts forever as well. Once you've got that patch on your device, and people might want to just briefly know what happens in that patch, because it really is just a sticker made of glue, paper, and a dye, but it has an energy imprint in it that has a conscious instruction in it to actually change the vibration of the field. Now, before I met this inventor, I would have just said, you are, having a laugh, as they would have said. but he stuck to his guns. He said, you've got to come on this journey with me and I'll explain to you exactly how that's possible. And I went, okay, I've got an open mind. I can see the benefit because I've already felt it from a muscle test. You tell me how you did that. And I took it upon myself to learn it, but also to tell other people in a way that they would understand. Because his problem, not a problem, his challenge is that he's so far ahead of everyone else in terms of physics and his understanding of everything that he can't just talk about it in simple layman's terms. And that's, I think, what I've brought to the table in terms of just trying to explain the atom, how it spins, you know, how everything is light, and everything is conscious, and everything is looking to be in that perfect balance. But in this world of free will, there are many influences that can move that 0 point away from the balanced center position, which is love, and can move that magnetic point around the field, right? And as it moves around, it drags the light ring with it. So it never settles. It's like an agitated wave field. So I often say, if you listen to two different types of music, one would be like a love song, the other one would be a heavy metal song about killing your friends, you would have a very different vibrational feeling in your body with those two, vibrations of the songs, right? So that is just a clear explanation about how consciously we are affecting the field. We can move it into imbalance or we can move it into the balance of love. It's our choice in this planet of free will. And so that opens up lots of explanations on how we can live a better life. And
I also loved, it's all my work, and it's the heart healer. It's all about coming into love. And what you said, that explanation about the strings and bringing the other string into resonance, it so explains like how things like mass meditation work, how and how things like how important, as my clients who are in my membership program will come to see me for one-to-ones, how I keep on going on about the power of your thoughts and the way that you discover your own power, and how you may feel overwhelmed by what you're witnessing happen in the world, but realize that the reason that the news show you the negative over and over and over again and very rarely touching the positive is because when we're in the positive vibrations and we're in that balanced space, our field of resonance increases. And the more of us who are in that place and holding that vision and operating through love, the vibration of the more A strings or whatever strings we are bringing up online. And that's why there is a tipping point needed, and not everybody has to do the same thing, because we suddenly get that vibration going through the entire planet. And then everybody by osmosis is sliding into the love field rather than the fear, competition, destruction, chaos field, which we are seeing plenty of right now.
Yeah. And a lot of that is obviously quite deliberate, right? Because we are coming to a point where we're, sharing all of this vibration amongst us that is moving very fast into, this rapid ascension, awakening, whatever you want to call it, of the human race. And certain powers are trying to stop that in whatever way they can. And one obvious way of doing that is by sending a whole load of electrical toxic fields at us. And another one is by sticking stuff in people's arms, potentially. So we're all in a situation where it's not going to be easy. The transition is not going to be made easy for us. One thing I just wanted to add from what I've learned from my kind of journey or whatever is that there's the difference between thinking and intending. And intentions are what is way more powerful than the thinking, because the thinking is always trying to figure it out and is always polarized. Whereas intentions, basically it's the art of being that intention, allowing yourself to be the energy of whatever it is. Because thinking your way into it is always polarized, and it actually isn't as productive as the being. just the sitting with it, moving everything out of your space, all thoughts, whatever, and then just being in that energy. It's not easy because our monkey minds just chip away and just go completely mental, but that is what I found to be incredibly important in that whole process of dealing with it all, shall we say.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant place to close. Mic drop. Thank you so much, Tim. I hope people have enjoyed this as much as I have. And please, if you haven't got Omnia, if you even have a little inkling of thinking that might be a good thing to put on your phone, the link is below. And if anyone has any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll get back to you. And I will be back next week with another video. And Midweek Medicine continues to be your portal, your safe space to come into community, to get your weekly tarot energy update messages with some really interesting themes coming up in the next month, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. GMT. And I will be back next week. So big thank you, Tim. Thank you for your time. Thank you all for joining me.
Lovely to be on. Yeah.
And if you haven't subscribed or shared, you can send your love back this way by doing some of those things. Lots of love, everybody. Big love. Bye, bye, bye.